About the mission. We're here today to talk about our expanding mission. But before we begin, let me introduce the civic leaders here this morning that represent the federal, state, and local levels. So please hold your applause until I recognize them all. First, representing Senator Marco Rubio's office, Susan Fernandez. We also have Cheryl Moore representing Congressman Bill Posey's office. Mayor Rocky Randell from the city of Cape Canaveral. Mayor William Capote from the city of Palm Bay. And Frank Sullivan from the Canaveral Port Authority. Miss anyone? We got them all? So thank you folks for all for being here. And it's really great to see so many friends of Craig Technologies here today as well. It's my distinct pleasure now to introduce Mark Sarangelo, the head of Sierra Nevada Corporation's Space Systems. I hope you all have heard of Sierra Nevada before, but in an unlikely chance you haven't, they are a successful and growing multi-billion-dollar U.S. aerospace and technology company. As head of Sierra Nevada Corporation Space Systems, Mark Sarangelo has helped to build and grow a product portfolio ranging from small satellites to space technologies that have enabled over 420 planetary missions, such as Curiosity, to the hybrid rocket motors that won the Ansari X Prize and currently power Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two. Under a public-private partnership with NASA, SNC is also developing Dream Chaser, an orbital spaceplane that is designed as an economical successor to the Space Shuttle, which will transport humans to and from low Earth orbit. Mr. Sarangelo was formerly the chairman and CEO of SpaceDev. Prior to its merging with SNC, and he has spent most of his professional life as an entrepreneur, funding and leading several successful technology communications companies. For those of you that know Carol Craig and Craig Technologies, you know that Carol is on numerous nonprofit boards and supports many organizations in Brevard County. And we want to continue to partner with these kind of companies and people that share that same philanthropic leadership. So it's very interesting to learn too as well that Mark is a board member and trustee of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and also a founder, vice chairman, and treasurer of the International Center for Children. So please welcome Mr. Mark Sarangelo.
Good morning. It's a great day here, and I'm really pleased to be here to talk to you about really three things today. We're going to give you a brief insight into what we're doing as Sierra Nevada with the Dream Chaser, and how that, secondly, how that affects Florida and what we're going to be, I think, developing here in the next few months and years. And then lastly, and most importantly, to talk a little bit about our relationship with Craig and Carol and how that's going to develop. And we're super excited about being here and being able to do this. So I'd like to start, if I could, by giving a little background on what we're trying to accomplish as a company. If I can get this to work. As was mentioned, Sierra Nevada is a growing company. It's been around for quite a long time. We've, as an organization, we've been in business now 50 years. As a space business, this is our 26th year in space. We have about 3,000 people now around the country. We've been growing and growing rapidly through many different sectors. In space, this is we're about to do our 426th space mission, which is a lot of missions to space, and we've built about 4,000 different things to go to space. So we both know how hard it is and how exciting it is to be part of that world. We've been a long-standing partner with NASA. We've had now over 70 missions with NASA, some of the most exciting missions that NASA has been involved in, and we're going to talk a little bit more about one today. We do this around the world, although we're headquartered administratively in Nevada, and our space headquarters is in Colorado. We have offices throughout the United States and do business throughout the world. Besides space, we are one of the country's largest converters and builders of specialized airplanes, which is something we actually do here in Florida as well. We have a significant business and growing business to do airplane design and development here in Florida. In space, we do four things. We are one of the country's largest builders of small satellites, and we're shortly to launch the next generation of small satellites right here from the Cape in the next few weeks. Six new satellites will be going up for a client called Orbcom. And by the end of the year, we'll have 17 new next generation satellites in orbit and low Earth orbit. It's a significant part of our business. We are a builder of technologies for spacecraft. Virtually all the major spacecraft and spacecraft builders use some part of what we do. We're a rocket motor company. We build motors that move things in space. And lastly, and most importantly for today, we're the owner and builder of something called the Dream Chaser, which is one of the replacements for the United States Space Shuttle. One of the fun things we've done last year on our 25th anniversary, we went back and realized that we'd actually had missions to 7 planets, the moon, and the sun. And this was a sample of a postcard that we put out in celebration of that. And it's really a wonderful thing to be able to say, for our team to be able to say, hey, we built something and has gone to Mars, or is on its way to Pluto. We've been to Mars more times than any other company in the space industry, which is also something we're quite proud of. The missions that we do really scan the palette of space. We are involved in doing planetary missions. We're also quite engaged with the Orion program, which is America's long-distance space vehicle, built as a prime contractor by Lockheed Martin. A lot of work that gets done here in Florida. And we were quite fortunate to be on the Mars Curiosity mission, which was the last landing that we did on Mars. And our company was in part responsible for the last minute of the 7 minutes of terror, if any of you watched that particular video. And I always like showing this picture because it's a wonderful thing. It's the first high-definition picture from the surface of Mars. And that is the actual arm that does the drilling and digging on the surface. And many of the things that are involved in our space program are used in many different aspects of life. The technology behind this particular robotic arm is now being used in things like prosthetics for our soldiers as they return back home. Space is an enabler for our society, and we're very fortunate to be part of that enabling. What I'd like mostly to talk about today is our Dream Chaser program. Dream Chaser is a vehicle that is designed as the next generation U.S. space shuttle. It has a look and feel of the space shuttle, and we are fortunate now to be in our 10th year of development of this program. We started this with now 9.5 years, almost close to 10 years into the program, and the program is such that it is something that has come from a very interesting design. NASA a long time ago built something called the HL-20, which was designed to be the crew rescue vehicle for the space station. And it worked on that for about 9 or 10 years, and for a variety of reasons it stopped work. We as a company then picked up that program, and at a time where we were a lot smaller than Craig was, we decided that this is something that we wanted to do. And I think one of the things that's wonderful about working with Carol and her team is that we understand what small business is like, we understand how hard it is, and we understand how tough it is to be able to take something and build it, and we have a lot of respect for that. And having them as part of our program is going to be wonderful. The Dream Chaser has turned into, from a series of designs, an actual flight vehicle that is now in the process of working. And we like to show this picture because one of the reasons that we are here is because we're able to work on the backs of many, many people in the space industry. A large part who were here in Florida are still here in Florida. We like to think of this as big brother and little brother. The space shuttle had its life, 135 flights, and for a variety of reasons that program ended. But one of the things that we like to point out is that from our perspective, the space shuttle was like a big moving man. It was needed to be the size and the complexity it was to be able to build and bring things to space and build things like the International Space Station. Now that that's built, what we need for our country is the ability to go there effectively, quickly, safely, and be able to really do the kinds of things in space that we have put this infrastructure to be in orbit to do. And our vehicle in many ways is like an SUV. It's able to take people and cargo up to station in an effective manner. We call it our space utility vehicle. It can do a lot of things in space besides transportation. It can help fix things in space. It can help build things, new things in space, and we're quite proud of that and the connection that we have with the U.S. space program. Craig Technologies is one of those businesses that we've come across a little while ago that really makes you stop and realize that this is in large part what America is all about. Carol is an extraordinary person and a leader, but the business itself really has a background that I hope many of you know or will know. Craig is a successful U.S. business, of course, and it's a minority-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned business, and economically disadvantaged woman-owned business. And lastly, a small business underneath the rules of small business in the United States. And really, those are words, but I think what it really is in my mind is a collection of people led by a terrific leader that says, you know, this is what America is all about in many ways. It's about being able to come off of something and to begin to build something that's significant, something that creates jobs, something that makes a difference in our society, in our world. And I think Carol represents the best of what that is all about. As many of you may know, this is a business that does a lot of things, and you'll see that on your tour today. We chose them because what we needed really was a business that was going to be able to help us build things that will enable the Dream Chaser to fly. And the abilities in this facility, as you see, are amazing. But what's really amazing is how it got here and how the story developed, at least in my mind. There's 160,000 square feet of facility in this building. And someone like myself who's come out of the space business, there's a particular connection to this. This used to be United Space Alliance building, and for many years we came here as we were putting together the launches for the space shuttle. And I think it's just appropriate, maybe we're just superstitious in our industry, but the ability to have good vibrations and to be able to say that whole experience, so much of which is embedded in our minds, continues on by the use of this facility for something new and exciting, not only for our program, but for many different programs that exist here in Florida. They have a supply chain system and a quality control system that we think is not only second to none for this type of operation, but certainly is going to enable us and make us better. And the investment that's been made here by the individuals as well as by NASA in this kind of facility really is an example how the space program here on the Space Coast can and is rebounding back to what it was. We are super excited to be able to start our launch program from the Cape and to be able to work in this kind of relationship. And we, in our industry, we call it a mentor-protege, which is something that where companies who have had some degree of success get to work with companies who are trying to merge in the industry. And we use that term, and it's a great term, and it is what we think we are doing. But at the same time, it's a two-way street because we learn from each other, and we are already learning from each other. Craig is going to be on board to begin building some hardware for Dream Chaser. Particularly, what we're going to be doing here in Florida for our program is really three main things. We're going to be getting the vehicle ready to go to space, and we'll have a series of vehicles, and when we get the video back up, you'll see it. The second thing we're going to be doing is after we fly, we're going to be returning here to Florida as our primary landing strip. And then thirdly, we're going to be taking the vehicle once it's landed here, and we're going to be getting it ready to go back up to space. A very similar path to what the space shuttle was doing. And Craig we're starting a journey today with Craig. Our first contract is to help build some of the hardware that will be able to enable Dream Chaser to get through that flight path and get ready. And that's a really great start, but we hope it's only the first of many different pieces of business that we'll be doing here. Well, we have music now, so this is good. But the other thing I think what I'd like to realize and recognize is that while we talk about small business, and certainly Carol is one of the leading women-owned businesses in this area, I want to bring attention a little bit to her background as a military pilot. Carol was in military service, active duty service as a P3 Orion Naval Flight Officer, and having some time in the military. I think it's really important as we look forward to be able to say that this is a society that we want to make sure that we bring it all along with, and being able to see that service and see that commitment that she's had to our country now being displayed in building a business and creating jobs. It's very amazing. I don't know how many of you realize, but it's quite a larger business than most realize. From 1999, she now has close to 400 people working in 20 different states in this business, and it's a marvelous example of growth and what we're able to do. Just in the last 12 months, if I could, I'd like to just recognize a couple of awards. In January 2014, Craig received the NASA Shared Service Center's Small Business Subcontractor of the Year. In 2013, Carol received the NDIA Catherine Sadar Small Business Executive of the Year Award. In September of that year, Carol was presented with the HENAAC Entrepreneur Award. Earlier in 2013, Florida Trend named Craig Technologies as one of the best companies to work for in the state of Colorado. And it's now on the 37th on the list of 50 fastest growing women-owned business by Women Presidents Organization and American Express Open program. So those are just a handful of the awards. But I think what you really want to see is, and really know that this is a quality company led by a quality person. Many of the employees are looking at me wondering why I'm saying what I'm saying here today, but they know it better than anyone here that this is a great place to work. And we are so fortunate in Sierra Nevada to have a company like Craig Technologies join our growing team. Right now, that team represents close to 40 different companies around the United States. We have employment in 30 states on the Dream Chaser program. And what we're able to do is to continually look out and say in our minds that if we can find a company that does something extraordinary, and we're able to bring that company on board the team, we are better for it, our space program is better for it, NASA is better for it, and certainly our country is better for it. Our goal at the end of this, and we have our video up and running, is to be able to bring American spaceflight back to America. At the end of the day, we started this program in my company because we realized that the space shuttle was ending, and since that program has ended, we've not been able to bring Americans to space on an American space vehicle, and we think it's time for that to change. Dream Chaser is able to do that. We're proud of the team that we've built and the people we've built, and we're certainly proud to be adding Craig Technologies to that team today. So if I can, I believe we have our video now, so we'll see if that works. And before I turn it over to Carol, I'll just do a couple more slides to finish. Get that back up. But we might even not wait for that. The most important thing I think we want to be able to say is that now that you've seen the vehicle, this is not just a concept. We actually have decided to go into full service. We've announced our launch date. The launch date is November 1st of 2016. That is going to be launched on an Atlas V rocket from the Cape. So you're all going to be able to see that beautiful plume that's going to be able to come off over the water. And those of you from Craig who are here are going to be able to say that you've helped enable that. And probably the best thing that you can get out of the space industry, and I think the reason why so many of us stay in it for life and so many multi-generation families, is that you realize at that moment when that rocket leaves the ground that you've done something very special. You've been part of a team, you've been part of change, you've been part of being able to make inspiration and motivation throughout the world. There's a reason why 1 million people came to the last shuttle flight to see that and gave up their life. And we're missing that in America right now. We're missing that type of spark and inspiration in the space program and in the science program. And together with other programs like the Lockheed Orion program and the SLS program, we feel that this commercial crew program and what we're doing specifically of bringing back that feeling of being able to fly in an American-built vehicle from the Space Coast is so important to us. And we just are really proud, and I'd like to take the moment now, and we'll just end this. That's fine, we don't need to go through that anymore. But I'd like to bring Carol up, who's really the star of the show today, and let her talk a little bit about herself and the company and why this is so important to Florida. Carol?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mark and the Sierra Nevada Corporation team. And I think I can speak for our entire company that we are so thrilled to be a part of the Dream Team and the tremendous opportunity not only that it brings to our company, but also to the Brevard County community. I mean, it's extremely important. We're all very committed, and it's great to work with a company that has that same commitment and also that same culture that we do. Many of you know that the Aerospace and Defense Manufacturing Center started about 18 months ago, and as far as we know, there's nothing like this facility. I think I can say pretty much anywhere in the world for a variety of reasons. But you know, as Mark mentioned, you know, the legacy of this being the former NASA shuttle logistics depot, you know, and servicing, you know, 80% of the components for the shuttle, pretty much, you know, lays the groundwork for what is coming and what we have here. The reason that this came about, and you know, the credit goes to a one-of-a-kind Space Act agreement that NASA KSC put in place, and we again had the privilege to be a part of that. And Scott Colorado and his CPDO team, you know, helped make that a reality. And you know, that's the reason that we're here, is because of that Space Act agreement. And what that involves is the ability to maintain and utilize 1,600 pieces of specialty equipment, manufacturing and test equipment that, like I said, was used on the shuttle, and being able to combine that with the equipment we had before and equipment that we have since purchased is what gives us this, you know, one-of-a-kind venture that I think has never been done before. We had no expectations, you know, really, when this came about, but we definitely had goals, and the goals were to repurpose the equipment, find new business for ourselves, you know, for our unique kind of combination of our engineering and technology services and the manufacturing side, and then of course to grow as a company and create new jobs. We couldn't have done any of this without the partnership, without our community partnership. And I'm not going to name everybody, I should, and I wish I could, but there's several different organizations that have helped us. You know, the EDC of the Space Coast, Space Florida, Career Source Brevard, MEP, you know, I can go on and on about all the organizations that have helped us locally. And then also the relationships with NASA and City of Cape Canaveral, Rocky. And then Connecticut North America, Lockheed Martin, the Boeing Company, all these different companies, the relationships, the partnerships, you know, are what makes this actually be able to happen. And so, you know, really the whole reason that we took this leap, like I said, was the jobs. It was to be able to be a part of the revitalization of the Space Coast, you know, in this post-shuttle, you know, downturn from the economy. And we really we're showing our commitment. You know, it's been very important to us to make an investment in this community, not only with jobs, but also a capital investment. You know, since we started this, we've put well over $2 million into this facility, and that's in infrastructure, that's people, modifications in this facility, you know, showing that, you know, this is really important to us. And not only the infrastructure and that capital investment, but our commitment to the local vendors and the local suppliers and the companies that are already here. So that's kind of that small business mindset. Like Mark said, you know, we know what it was like, you know, to be a one-person show. You know, we know how important small business is to this community and what it represents. And so, you know, from that perspective, it's great to be able to give back to the community, and it's great to be around other companies who have that same passion and drive for missions that are as important as this one. And that whole small business mentality, you know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Craig Technologies family. And you can see, you know, a large number of them are standing here today. And that's where the credit goes as far as Craig Technologies goes. It's not me. I'm not, although I like to say it's all about me. It's really not all about me. It really is all about the Craig Technologies family, and they're the reason that we're going to be able to be successful and continue to grow like we have. So everyone keeps talking about jobs, and I know I mentioned that a couple of times, and people say, okay, how many jobs is this going to create, or how many have you created? So I do want to kind of just talk about what we've done over the last 18 months. As mentioned, we have about 400 employees throughout the United States. In this building, we have 70. 18 months ago, you know, we had just a few, and we've consolidated some of our headquarters. So when you think about that growth, it's very phenomenal. But in Brevard County, since the ADMC started in January 1st, 2013, we've hired 150 employees. And out of those 150, 65 of those were former shuttle workers who were out of jobs. And out of those 65, about 35 or so of those are actually working here in this facility. That's really what the important message is that we're able to bring jobs and keep that knowledge base, retain that experience and that skilled workforce that was there before. And that's what we hopefully are able to bring to Mark and his team. My intent, how many jobs do we think we're going to bring in? My intent is to fill this building again. I've always said that. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I hope it will. I think it probably will, but that's my intent. And I think with partnerships like what Craig has with SNC, I think that we can actually make that happen. So just in summary, to close, I do want to say that I think the SNC-Craig partnership is instrumental in reestablishing the United States and Florida as a world leader in manned space travel. We're looking forward to turning the end of a world-class program into the beginning of a next-generation powerhouse, and we can only do it with your continued support. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll take some questions if you would, but before we do that, this whole program, what we're working on with NASA, is probably one of the best examples of a public-private partnership that now exists in the country. It takes all sides of our government and all sides of industry to make this work. Our federal government, and I know we have some representatives here, being able to create the program and support the program, which is called the Commercial Crew Program, to allow that to happen. The state government, which has been terrific in my mind to really look at the Space Coast and say, how do we enable the Space Coast for the next generation of people, from the governor on down through Space Florida, through the local officials. It's been a wonderful experience for us here in Florida. We now are close to 400 people in the state of Florida as SNC, and we continue to grow. And I think the local officials here, I think there's several from the towns here, it is about the local communities. Sierra Nevada has a very unique perspective in that we have now offices in 30 different cities. We don't look at this as trying to consolidate. We think it's important to be strong in each of the local communities that matter to us. That public side combined with a private side, which is larger companies like Lockheed Martin, who are part of our team and been a terrific part, United Launch Alliance, who's going to be doing the rocket build for us, through all different organizations, through companies like Carol's company. Really, it's probably one of the best examples of how each part of American society, from government at the federal level, state, local level, through business at the large company, small company, new started company, and adding the university connection, of which there are now 6 different universities who are part of this program. I can't think of another program of this size and this importance that has that kind of collection going on. And we hope as we do this, it's also a model for the future for how we as America can take the next step into the future. So we'll take some questions now if there are any. Yes.
In terms of Dream Chaser, what are some of the things that we can expect to see before the actual flight in 2016-17?
Sure, it's a great question. The question was in terms of what's going to happen going forward with Dream Chaser. There's really 2 paths that are going on. One is the flight test and the other is the build program. The flight test, which is continuing the next to go to orbit, it was intended as a flight test vehicle, and we'll do a series of tests, a number probably more than 4, less than 10, until we get everything we need from that program. Concurrent with that, we have started the build of the orbital flight vehicle, which is the first of a series of vehicles that will be used to do the orbital servicing, the actual flight vehicles like the shuttle orbiters. That build was started at the NASA center called the Michoud Center in Louisiana under Lockheed Martin. It's the same place where Orion was built, and for those of you who know the program, where the shuttle tanks were built. So we're actually working that. The first orbital structure will be delivered later this year, so that part of the program is going quite well. And then the third piece of it is the ability to do all the preparations for launch. We have a signed contract for the rocket. Rocket is going to start construction right now. So all those 3 things will be converging over the next 2 years.
I have a follow-up as well.
Of course.
Can you describe a little bit what Craig Technologies is going to be bringing to Dream Chaser?
A wonderful group of energetic people to start with. And I don't say that lightly because it takes a lot of spirit and motivation to do something this big and this audacious. And surrounding yourself by people who believe that you can do the impossible is the first step. Practically speaking, this is the beginning of a relationship. the first thing that Carol and her company will be doing is building some of the hardware that will allow Dream Chaser to get processed. The technology here allows for very precise, very high quality hardware that will enable us to move Dream Chaser around, be able to adapt it to the rocket as it needs to be adapted, and that flight hardware, that flight operations hardware is the first thing. There will be other things in the future, but that's where we're starting. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, is the partnership contingent on you winning an award this summer? And can you talk a little bit about what you expect as far as the important awards to come in a couple months?
Sure. I've never heard that question before.
Yeah.
No, James, we have already started the relationship. The contract's under work, so it's not contingent in that regard. What he was referencing is the fact that NASA is going through a process right now to determine what its future is going to be like. Somewhere between now and the end of the year, they will be doing another level of down select for that program. So we don't know what the results of that are going to be, but we believe we're well positioned for that next phase. But in addition to that, I think what we're doing is we're building a system that has multiple clients for multiple types of projects in space. And Dream Chaser was not solely a NASA project, and we're hoping through the work that we're doing that we're going to have other clients that we'll be able to announce here soon.
Carol, is there a specific number of jobs you know is associated with this work, or you anticipate will start out at least with this project?
So you had to ask the job question, didn't you? And I tried to. No. It's hard to answer that, obviously, because we're still in the early stages. So that's going to be my answer. Is I don't know. Anywhere from 20 additional to 100. Who knows? But certainly I can say there are going to be more jobs. We're already doing that. We're looking at hiring, and as Mark said, it's not necessarily contingent. The relationship is already there, so we're already in progress. So I can't give a definitive answer because I hate to disappoint people. So I don't want to say a number and then not hit it. But anyway, yeah.
Without being super technical, is there anything in this facility, or is it more about the people you retain that makes that transfer from shuttle to Dream Chaser kind of a good fit here?
It's always about the people. There's no question. You can have all the equipment, the best equipment in the world. If you don't have the right people behind it, it means absolutely nothing. But then combining it together, it's that collaboration of the people and the equipment. But I'll go back to, we've been so blessed to, our original team to have such a great core group, but then to integrate, the folks that came over from United Space Alliance, the folks that came over from, other organizations, and again, that's what it's all about. It's the individuals that we have supporting us. That's what makes us different.
So Mark, when does the work here begin at Craig Technology and Dream Chase?
As soon as you all leave today.
It's going on right back there.
She's not a very patient person, if you haven't noticed. We actually have been planning the work already. We've already begun looking at how we're going to do that. Our teams have started to collaborate, and we've actually had several working sessions. So we're in that design planning cycle right now. So it's actually started, and it's critical because what we do isn't something that happens in a month or a few months. It's actually years in advance that we have to plan something like this. So that process has started, and very shortly we'll start moving to the next level.
Is there anything as an example that they're working on for the Dream Chaser?
The first thing that we're talking about is actually the hardware that will help move the Dream Chaser around and be able to place it onto its adapter for flight. And that's the precision hardware that needs to be manufactured here, and you'll see some of that on your tour. But there are other things that we're beginning to talk about, and we'll have to wait to the next press conference to be able to talk about those.
When would you expect that orbital vehicle to arrive if everything stayed on track?
We are expecting delivery of the structure from Lockheed.
To Florida,
to Florida, yeah. Our first flight is in November of 2016, so we would expect a number of months before that, the spring of 2016, to be able to start that. And we are basing the fleet here in Florida, and that's very much like the shuttle fleet was based here. And for those from a non-technical point of view, there's basically 4 things that we'll be doing. The vehicle will come here and it has to get ready to go on its trip. So all the things necessary to make sure the vehicle's ready to go fly and then taking that vehicle and placing it on the rocket, which will be delivered here separately from Alabama, and mating that, as we call it, putting the vehicle, our vehicle flies on top of the Atlas V, so we have to make sure it gets mated properly. Then the launch operations will be conducted here. All the flights will take place from the Florida coast, and once it's launched into space, when it returns, our primary landing field will be the shuttle landing facility. And there's where the state comes in. The state is in the process of taking that facility over from NASA. So we'll be coming back here, although we can land in many places. Our primary landing strip will be here, and we'll be taking that vehicle, landing in here. Once it lands, it will then be moved over to the what's called the operations and checkout facility, which is on the NASA Center. The O&C facility is the same place that Orion gets prepped, and it will be taken into that facility, examined, tested, and gotten ready for its next flight. So that whole cycle is what happens here in Florida.
Well, for shuttle, we had TAL sites that have a lot of other elements that needed to be in place. So the question I have for you with SNC is, how much of that can we expect to see with Dream Chaser, and when can we expect to see Slick 41 modified for use with Dream Chaser?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, separately from this, we are in active discussions with United Launch Alliance, which is the manager of the site, to start doing the modifications. Modifications, it's pretty much a standard tower. What we need to be able to do is to be able to have essentially the arm that allows for the astronauts to get on and off the vehicle. We're using a standard Atlas V, so the rocket itself doesn't need to be modified. But you need to be able to get in and out of the vehicle, which is not something you have to do with satellites. So that piece of the structure is something that's being developed right now, is actually under design as we speak. Does that answer your question?
Well, I was wondering about the TAL sites and other, because you are based somewhat off the space shuttle. Are you going to have similar requirements with Dream Chaser in case you have to do for those of us that remember, orbit once around, any of that type of thing?
We do, and we have those being planned out. It's a separate team that's looking at the different sites. Yeah, and that will obviously have to be in place. Basically, we have to have a whole operational plan to be able to show that to NASA. We have gone through the first phase of that. Some of you who are tracking us, we just finished doing what was called the certification products contract. That's a certification plan, which is many thousands of pages of documentation. We successfully completed that with NASA. In that plan is the beginnings of all the things that you're talking about. How will you operate the vehicle? What will you do? How will you make it safe? And all that has now been completed as a design plan. It's been looked at by NASA, and we're moving into the next phase, which is starting to figure out how we actually build and set up the infrastructure. Any other thoughts or questions? Well, listen, on that point then, I'd like to turn it over. We're going to do a tour, and it's a really exciting part here. But first, I do want to say thank you all for coming today. It's wonderful to see all you here, being able to support the local community, being able to be proud of what you do, be it here in Florida or anywhere in the United States, is really an element of what makes this special. And we're expanding our team, and I'm so happy to see so many new faces who are going to be part of this, and to be able to say that our space program is going to be able to carry a little bit of the piece of all of you in front of us. And I'd like to thank you all for reporting on this as well. This is a terrific story. This is a company that deserves a lot of recognition. I hope you continue to follow it. It's one of the best American stories that I can see, and it's right here in Florida. So thank you very much for coming.